Hey, hi. I'm Victor Rivera, and this is D&Me, where I play with myself. I play in D&D with myself. So, welcome. I'm sure that was lovely. Seeing I made the whole dice intro thing because there's a delay on OBS and Twitch, and I didn't put any sound behind this one, so it was probably just a minute of hearing. So that's good. That's a great way to start, huh? Welcome. Yes. This is D&Me, and this is one of the supplemental little episodes where this is D&Me, D&BeGinnings or beginners. I don't remember whatever. Beginners. My father actually suggested I do an episode like this where even though the actual Twitch stream and the YouTube and the podcast and the whole story would be more assuming that you know D&D and kind of the rules behind it. It won't be like a ramp up like the Adventure Zone was, where they're all learning. The McElroys all learn how to play D&D together. One of them played a little bit, but it's not gonna be like a ramp up of me teaching you D&D. So instead, I'm gonna have this. Where I will right now teach you D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, made in 1970. I read a book about the origins and stuff, the history of D&D. Yeah, I'm gonna teach you about it. So please feel free if you have any questions, put them in chat. I will. Excuse me, that is very rude. I am streaming. I wonder if can you hear that? Oh, not an issue. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat or comment or text them to me or other stuff, tweet or in Instagram, Facebook, all the social medias. I will answer them periodically. I'm not gonna stare at the chat because it's like staring into the mindless void. This is just scrolling. So D&D. What is D&D? It's a fantasy role-playing game, tabletop RPG. So that is tabletop role-playing game. And it is very fun, and I like it a lot. And a lot of people I know like it a lot. And it is penultimate nerddom, but why is that a bad thing? I don't think so. I think it's a lovely thing. So, Dungeons and Dragons, it's very theater in the mind. So what it is, so first of all, it's high fantasy, which means that it takes place not in our world, and even then, it could still be in our world. High fantasy where it has it's very much Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, or there's magic and creatures and really cool stuff. So that's pretty much the premise of it. And then either you can make up your own adventure, where anything pretty much goes, and you have a cool little party, and you come up with your own stuff and your own monster. It's very lenient and flexible D&D sometimes, where you can just make a creature and then give it stats, and then that's a thing that exists now. And sometimes there's a lot of rules, but I'm going to demystify some of them for you today. So high fantasy, it has dungeons and it has dragons. So you, as a brand new Dungeons and Dragons player, oh my gosh, look at that! Oh, my hand was slippery for a second. I'm going to teach you. I do want to do another supplemental episode where we create a character together, and then I'll tell you just all the mechanics of rolling for ability scores and blah blah blah. But then after we make our character, then I want to put him in the game, or she or they in the game, and then those of you who watch the character creation can watch the game and go, oh my gosh, we made that. we made that creature or player. So that'll be just a little fun little thing that we're gonna do eventually. But Dungeons and Dragons is high fantasy, so it takes place. For the most part, it takes place in the Forgotten Realms, which Gary Gygax and others made like a fantasy thing, and then there's a lot of lore connected to a lot of it. And the pre-published adventures, which I will be playing out of, connect with that. And sometimes there's like in a different plane altogether, and there are like a lot of planes, not like flying the thing, but like a material plane, which is like the real world kind of, and then there's like the 9 hells, and then there's like a heaven one, and then there's like just the elemental plane of like rocks, and the fire elemental plane where it's just pretty much fire. Everything's on fire. So there's a lot of awesome stuff, and I don't really know about planes yet, but there's just a lot of opportunity. And you, as a new D&D player, get to make your own character. So you need to focus on... there are 2 main things right at the beginning. What you really want to do, and then we can make everything besides that outside. Is your race and your class. So race, that is like elf, that is half elf, dwarf, halfling, which actually early in D&D they got in trouble for calling them hobbits. So instead of legal stuff, then they're like, okay, so they turn into halfling, which I think is awesome. Halfling, dragonborn, so you're half dragon, half orc, gnome, which is like a wee little garden gnome. What other ones are good ones? Tieflings, which are kind of like devils, where they have horns and then like different colored skin and then tails. So that's cool. You can play as a human. I don't like playing as a human because I'm a human right now. So I don't want to play in this fabulous, fantastical world and then play as a human. But people do that though, which is great. You do whatever you want. I'm not going to play a human. Dwarf. Let's see, what other ones? And then, so those are like the main ones. And then from that, then you can get even more creative because there's like tabaxi, which are like cat folk. There's minotaurs, like the half, like the bull head and then the human, and then they have the horns. And then like satyrs. I'm playing satyr in another thing altogether, where it's like a fawn, and it's half man, half goat, or Loxodon, which is elephant folk. So there's a lot of cool races you can be, and it's really neat. Drow, which are dark elves, and that's neat. Jits Diorden, who's one of the more famous D&D characters that they like wrote novels off of and stuff. He's a famous drow. So it's like typically a black-skinned or like dark blue or dark purple elf with like stark white hair, and that's really neat. Then so your race, and that's a cool fantasy one, like mermaids and stuff. Like you can play pretty much a lot of things. I love turtles, which are turtle folk. So I have a lot of little minis on my desk because I like collecting them. But here's like a turtle druid, and I'll tell you what a druid is in 2 seconds, but that's a turtle, and it's turtle with a O instead of a U, because God bless D&D. So, a turtle druid, so it's a turtle as the race, and then druid as the class. So druid, classes, it's like what your job is, kind of like what style of character you're playing. So there is barbarian, so you get to like go into a rage and you just punch and like use melee weapons, so you're like in close contact. Bard, which uses like music magic or storytelling and stuff, which is really cool. There's fighter, which is barbarian, but barbarians have a special ability called rage, where you click on rage and then you get to do other stuff. But fighters like get to do more like actions and stuff. Then there's druid, which is like very nature magic. There's cleric, which is, so there are gods in D&D also. So besides the planes, and they're in a plane, but there is like heroes and champions of gods, and so some of them are clerics where they have like healing magic, and it's very support. If you play like video games, then like clerics are very good at like healing and bringing people back from dying, because you can die in D&D. So there's healing magic with clerics, and then paladins are like another hero of the gods or what have you, and they're more of like a fighty class. So like they can heal and stuff, but they are still badass, and like they have heavy armor and like shields and stuff. So paladins, babies, rogues are sneaky folk. So like they are good at like hiding, and then they do extra damage when they come out of hiding and like throw daggers and stuff. Dagger, dagger, dagger. So that, and then what else? Barbarian, bard, rogue, fighter, ranger, which is like you are in the trees, and you have, it's kind of nature magic, but like you're good at arrows and like being one with nature and like tracking and very much. Oh no, who's the guy from Lord of the Rings? Aragorn? Boy howdy, if I'm wrong, people are gonna yell at me. I think it's Aragorn. His name is Viggo Mortensen. So Vigo. Oh no. I know Aragon is the Dragon book series, which had one movie, I think. I think it's Aragorn. Oh boy. But for Lord of the Rings as an example, so their races are like an elf, so that's Legolas, and he's like a ranger. No. And then there's Gimli, who's my favorite character in Lord of the Rings, and he's a dwarf. Never touch a dwarf. What's another line of his? Never touch a dwarf. And then like Aragorn and Boromir and others. Oh my gosh, I just remembered two other races or classes, but Aragon and Boromir are humans. And then hobbits are halflings. What other ones? Okay, but two more classes that I just remembered. And there's a list of them. I probably should do that because I'm teaching you. This is just entertainment. Two more classes are wizards. Okay, three more. So this is very much just magic. So wizards do like a study magic where they have a spell book, like a legit spell book, and there's a whole bunch of rules for that, where they can write down spells and like learn them and stuff. So it's a very studied magic. And then sorcerers are like magic is just innate within them, and like they don't know like the rules, and they very particular like Hogwarts style like studying, but they have their own magic. And then a subsection of that is wild magic, and so a sorcerer would have their powers, and then they don't know what's gonna happen. Kind of sometimes it's just a roll of the dice, and we will talk a lot about dice. Listen to that, just it's beautiful already. And so that's another type of magic. And then warlocks are like the clerics and paladins, but they're the bad ones, kind of. They have a patron who, like, sometimes it's like an evil god, or like this giant monster, or like this behemoth, like this otherworldly creature, and then that's where they get their powers from. So that's very fun. Eldritch Blast. Let me see. Okay, so I'm gonna give you like what I know about D&D, and like I'm teaching you in the beginning. But this is pretty much 300 pages of rules. This is the D&D Player's Handbook, which there's resources online. D&D Beyond is a great resource online. But I will be referring to this a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so races. Dwarf, yeah, never touch a dwarf. What are your elf? Elf, halfling, human, dragonborn, gnome, half elf, half orc, and tiefling. Wow, I got all the ones in the Player's Handbook. That was so good. Half orc are like, the big old brutes that you're used to. But, sometimes they have like a good heart and stuff. And it's fun because there's all the fantasy tropes of all the fantasy like characters and races and classes, and it's fun in D&D for me to turn them on their heads, to see what has been done and then do something different. I really love that. It's something I've always done with pretty much everything in my life, but especially with like fantastical troops. So let's look at classes. Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Monk. Monk is not Tony Shalhoub, who is excellent, but Monk is like one of them kick-assy like martial arts type. And so they have a resource called key points where they can spend a key point to do cool stuff, like punch a couple more times. Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard. Except for Monk, I'm boy howdy. I am 15 for 15 right now. So yes, races and classes, and then when you get into actual character building again, I do want to do a character building episode, supplemental. Let's see. Then there's backgrounds. So after you choose a race and a class, then you choose a background, and then it'll give you more stuff and stats. So Acolyte, Charlatan, Criminal, Entertainer, which I've done a bunch, as you can tell. Folk Hero, Guild Artisan, Hermit, Noble, Outlander, Sage, Sailor, Soldier, Urchin. So those are cool like backgrounds, and then when you choose one, then you get different stats and all that stuff. But that's pretty much the gameplay aspect. Well, it's the very beginning. That's like the first chapter of D&D, of what is D&D. So I'm gonna go to the chat real quick because I see a lot of stuff going on. This is excellent. I'm gonna see if there are any questions real quick. At 7:11, when can we play Aragorn? Okay, so here's a question. I'm going to read all the other chats elsewhere, but I'm going to look for question marks. Was 7:17. I don't know if I'd read the time codes out. I don't think most people do, but I might, so that you can go through the chat again and see. What's your favorite racy class combo? And then a similar, what's your favorite class to play? My favorite race class combo, I personally, again, turning expectations, I like to play races and classes I've never played before. So I create a character, and then I have a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet where I have all the races and all the classes. And then I go, oh, so I made one of those, and with one of those, check. And so I want to make sure that I never do the same ones twice. So as soon as I make like all of my fundamental characters, then I will go in and double up. But until then, let's see. I will say that one of my favorite races and class combos that I have made will be in the stream. So I haven't introduced my characters yet, but this Wednesday, August 4th at 7 p.m., I will have my first show, my first episode, and then you will meet some characters, and so you'll meet them then. What is my favorite class to play? So far, I'm having a lot of fun with a bard, because you can make song parodies, and I love making jokes just all over the place, so that's very important. But you can make song parodies, and notoriously, bards are a little raunchy. And they can get away with a little bit more stuff. But anyone could. But, like, historically, bards are very flirtatious. So, yeah. Let's see. Can you show us this spreadsheet? I might put it up on something. That's a great question. Yeah, because also in that spreadsheet, I put down my favorite shows. So Critical Role and The Adventure Zone and Dungeons and Daddies. I put like the main characters in that spreadsheet also, so that I don't go, oh, Tiefling Cleric. That is Jester from the Mighty Nine, Critical Role Season 2, Campaign 2. So I don't want to do someone else's combos either. I want to do my own original stuff. And there's infinite amount of possibilities. And then also, besides the player's handbook, then there's a lot of other resources with a lot of other races, and then a couple other classes. So there's also Blood Hunter, which is like you like have a sword and then you like cut yourself and then you draw blood, but then with that blood then you can do stuff with it. And then Artificer, which is like you can build stuff and like invent stuff, so that's cool. Save the date. What's the most overpowered item you ever received or given a player? And then just asked 721, when can we play? Thank you. When can we play? And Paige and Bradley, everyone. I don't see the numbers of who all is watching, but thank you so much again for joining in. But okay, is Blood Hunter and Artificer included in your spreadsheet? You betcha. And then at the bottom of my spreadsheet is all the World of Warcraft classes also and races, because I did that for a hot second in 2020. And we didn't do it for long, but I had a werewolf guy, and I had a Tauren, which is a Minotaur brute, like a barbarian guy. And then I did a troll, which are different from like other trolls that you know in lore and stuff. But I did a troll shaman who's kind of a warlocky guy. And his name, oh my gosh, what was his name? Excuse me. I am recording. Oh no, I need to remember. So his name is Yudu, which is Yudu, because it had a very like voodoo feel to it, shamans, and especially a troll, because they have like accents like this, and it was almost like Caribbean, and I was like, I don't know if this is good or not, but his name is Yudu because voodoo, and he it's the voodoo that you do so well. So Yudu. Let's see. Can you tell me there's a lot of good questions. Okay, so 720, what's the most overpowered item you ever received or given a player? I just gave my players for the game that I do, that I DM, I gave them a bunch of stuff. So I gave them a bag of tricks, which like produces an animal, which is fun. A bag of holding are always, it's a good staple. But overpowered item, I was going through some of my notes for my games in my past, and there was one of my characters has this, and I'm trying to figure out how to balance it out so that I don't break the game right off the bat. But he has 3 paint pigments, and like each paint can, I assume it has like 1,000 square feet of paint in it, where if you paint anything, then it turns into a real thing. So for example, like if you wanted to paint a pencil, then you paint a pencil on a piece of paper or something, and then a pencil comes out. So that I got that, and then some of my characters have very good weapons for playing for a year, like some legendary stuff. So I'm trying again to reel that in. Just a couple more questions, then I'll talk more about other stuff. Can you tell me more about the elephant people? Yes, Loxodons. They're good. They're sometimes noble people. In the game that I DM, there was a Loxodon noble named Abu Labas, who his ears were weighed down. It was a very like Egyptian Middle Eastern feel. So his ears were weighed down because he had all these like jewelry, like earrings that actually weighed his ears down, so it like tucked behind. And then he had like guy liner and stuff. And Abu Labas. This is the stuff you'll be looking forward to for D&Me. Abu Labas is the name of Charlemagne's elephant. So I'm real clever, y'all. I'm real clever. I'm going to go deep with like references. So it'll be fun little Easter eggs to pick out stuff of like, oh my gosh, that's what this is. And like if you watch all these D&Mextras, then you'll see like my worlds colliding and like in like tying together and all that stuff. So Deep-a-dee-doo. I don't know how to make it so that the motorcycles don't make noise. I'll figure that out when I have a lot more money. All right. One last question, and then I'll go on. So, well, okay, for this little chunk, I'm going to do little chunks. So, 726, what's the scariest D&D monster in real life? What's the scariest D&D monster in real life? Either that means, like, what's the scariest D&D monster, like, in all of lore? Or if a D&D monster were to just summon here, now, in IRL, which is in real life, if that's gonna, like, what the scariest one of that is. So, Beholder's pretty iconic D&D, and I would hate to see one just outside my window. So what a Beholder is a big old floating eyeball, and then he has little tentacles, eye stalks that come out. Like some have 10, and it's a big eyeball. It's like Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc., but real nasty looking, with like that same like just it's an eyeball. But then it also has like a mouth with really sharp teeth, and so it floats. And like there's an anti-magic cone, and then each eye stalk does a different like ray. So like a ray of disintegration or a death ray. So that's pretty not good. I would say also like dragons, but we had dinosaurs, but they looked really cool. I wish we had dinosaur dragons. So, and we have like bearded dragons and like little, I see on Instagram like, oh my gosh, it's a real live dragon, and it's like a little cutie. But there we go. So this is all about learning about D&D. I don't know also what is all this grainy stuff, but we got, oh my gosh. So this is my favorite shirt. It is a tie-dyed Keep Austin Weird, Austin, Texas shirt. But the thing is, there's a lot of green in this shirt. So I'm see-through. And then, so last time, so for the announcement video, I had pit stains, but now I don't have an armpit. No. This is just the good stuff we'll be getting for subscribing and following to D&Me at D&MeAdventures. Nope. There we go. We are halfway through my notes, so this is great. No, this is really fun. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, chat. Half an hour already. Good. I want to see if like I can make like 2 hours, because that would be good for like my Twitch thing. Like, but we'll see if we just run out of stuff to talk about. Again, this D&BeGINNERS episode was suggested by my dad. So if you have video suggestions, please put them in the chat and comments. And then I have an idea that we'll do a character creator one. I will eventually have a theme song. That's not to rush you, Bradley. That was just like, people might not know that I'm going to have a theme song. So that's in the works. And so I made a little video of that. And like, there's going to be a lot of fun things where I'll just show you how I am making D&Me, and it's a whole progress. And I'm excited to share. This is so exciting. So, all right. Gameplay, high fantasy, races and classes, backgrounds. So the appeal to D&D is that you can do whatever you want. There's a lot of fun things in role-playing, but like, you can do anything you want, and I love it. One of my favorite things to do in D&D is acting, so like interacting with the NPCs or non-player characters. You can go on quests to find like weapons and loot, or you can go and kill a monster, or like there's crimes and crime lords and stuff, so you can like stop crime, or you can do crime in D&D. There's a very important asterisk there. I encourage you to do crime in Dungeons and Dragons, don't just do crime, y'all. Come on. So you can do whatever you want, and it's magical. And so your dungeon master, who is the person leading the story, will encourage you and like give you little nuggets of like, hey, you can go and do these 3 things. Or what happens a lot in D&D, which is really fun, is that the adventure, as a DM, you plan for this thing, and then your players just go 18 other different ways, and it's a lot of improv, which is amazing and so much fun. But you could do whatever you want. And it's really, really exciting. How you do whatever you want comes down to microtransactions and surprise math. So say that you're at a bar and then you want to steal the a bottle of liquor from behind the bar. We'll break those down into different actions and different roles, where you will use your stats that we make for character creation, and then dice. Dice. And this determines, like, it has a factor of unpredictability, and just it could go very well or it could not go very well. Like, when you make a character, then you kind of buff yourself a little bit by making good numbers and stuff, but it's really down to a dice roll, because even if you have the best stats of like a +10 in stealth, then you could roll the dreaded natural 1 and fail, and like then the bartender will catch you, and then like good consequences, all because of this little thing. So character sheet, which is right behind me, this is a character sheet. This is one of 3 character sheets in Dungeons and Dragons, and I'll just break it down a little bit for you. So there's Dungeons and Dragons. I'm still getting used to the mirror stuff. I want in like 3 months' time for me to like weatherman like instantly, instead of me going So Dungeons and Dragons, you can come up with a cool character name, and then race and level, and then class. Oh, no. Okay. Class and level, race, background, alignment, which we'll talk a little bit about. I'll actually make a note of that. Alignment, which I'll talk about later. Player name, that's you. And then experience points. Now, you can either do, bringing this down, you can either do like experience points of like, oh, you killed a goblin, that is 35 points. Or like, hey, so you finished your first day of adventure, then that's a milestone. So you can either do like little like actual like tallying up your XP, or, and XP is experience points. Okay, so the main things about all of this surprise math is you have 6 different abilities: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And then you will do dice rolls, or you will have a manual buy or a standard array, or you will have numbers that correspond with strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And then that will make your character. Strength is how hard you can throw something, or like is very athletics. Dexterity is how fast you are. Constitution is how well your gut is. I'll explain that in a second. Intelligence is like book smarts, and then wisdom is like street smarts. Intelligence is like trivia, and then wisdom is putting them together in a meaningful way. Little connecting the dots. And then charisma, there we go, is like how personable you are. No, that's pretty much it. The tomato theory I like, because I'm huge in imagery. If you haven't told by this, by the first episode and then this 37 minutes so far, I love imagery. So the tomato theory is, for strength, how hard you can squish a tomato. Dexterity is how well you can throw a tomato. Constitution is how well you hold up after eating a bad tomato. Intelligence is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Yes. Wisdom is knowing not to put a tomato into a fruit salad. And then charisma is how well you can sell a tomato fruit salad. So that's very fun. I like it. It's cute. So strength, like you put it in and then you're like a big beefy character. You will be good at athletics. Oi! Athletics. And then like just if you have melee weapons, so there are two different type of weapons. Melee is like within 5 feet, like you whack them. So bludgeoning, slashing, like swords, you poke them. Dexterity. Ranged weapons are the other ones, where if you're more than 5 feet away, then like a crossbow or like a regular bow. But strength is like how good you can whack someone. Dexterity is, let's see. Dexterity is acrobatics. Oh, that actually might be. Then sleight of hand. So this is rogues and very sneaky characters of like how well you can do. I don't know how well that worked, but and then stealth is also like being real sneaky. Constitution doesn't have anything corresponding in skills, so that's what these are, but it does affect your health points, so your hit points, HP, which I didn't know when I first started, and I was like, who cares about Constitution? If you want to withstand some wackies, then yeah, that'd be good. Let's see. Intelligence. So these big six, they trickle down into skills. And then I'll talk a little bit about saving throws in a second. But if you're good at one of these six, then they correspond with skills. And the first three are kind of just physical. It's like how hard you can hit something. So it's a very melee weapon. Dexterity is what you use to do ranged weapons and sneaky. And then Constitution is like withstanding some effects. So like if you get cold or like poison. Poison's a big thing in D&D. Dwarves are good against poison. But Constitution, so that's good with health. And then Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma, that's like your role play stuff. That's investigating stuff or interacting with NPCs. So Intelligence is Arcana, which is like magic, just knowing general magics and stuff. History, if you're a nerd, then you'll know about history of Forgotten Realms and like the town that you are in, and blah, 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 blah. Investigation. So there's a big thing about investigation, and then there's one later on called perception. Perception is when you go into a room and you say you want to look around for clues. Then you could do like a general sweeping of the room, and that's perception. Investigation is like, hey, I want to go check out that table and look inside the drawer. Then that's investigation. So it's a big hoopla that takes years to boil down and figure out. But Perception is like a general, like, I want to check all this out. And then investigation is specific things. So that is my understanding of it. If you're going to chat at me, be gentle. I am a sensitive butterfly. Investigation, yes. Nature is intelligence? Is it? I guess so, yeah. So nature is like it's druid and rangers of like, you're outside in the woods, and so you roll a nature check and then check out this tree, and then this is what you know about the tree. Religion, so again, with all the gods, then if you are a godly creature, character, then it will help you for knowing religion. So that's intelligence. And then wisdom, that's animal handling. So there's a lot of creatures and a lot of monsters, so animal handling is a fun one. Insight, this is something I'm literally going to tell my group to remind them that this is a thing. But insight is if you suspect that someone is lying to you, you can go, you know what? I wanna see if I can tell anything. I want to investigate if they're like telling the truth. So you can roll insight, and then if you get a really good one, then the DM will go, well, you're looking at him as he's telling this story, and like his brow is furrowed, and like you see little beads of sweat, and like he's not maintaining eye contact with you. So like you might connect the dots that he's lying. Or if you get a really bad insight check, then it's like they're hard to read. I don't know what to tell you. He seems to be telling the truth, so it's kind of lie detectory, which is a neat thing. Critical Role does it where they just shout out, insight! I want to do an insight check! And then Matthew Mercer, I saw one episode where he's like, guys, you say, like, I want to see if he's lying to me, and then I'll tell you to do an insight check. So I am very mindful that he was like, can you please do this? And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was like a DM, like a little pet peeve. So I adhere to that. Let's see. Insight. Medicine. So if you are a cleric, or like if someone got a real nasty sword wound, and then you can go over and like use a medicine check to like figure out how to do a tourniquet. Or like if someone's like barfing, then you can do a medicine check to see if it's a poison or like a berry, or like you can do a thing to interact with people. These are all very good. Perception is checking out a room. Wisdom, survival. So again, you're out in the woods, and then you're like, it's like, can I look in the snow for tracks? And then you can roll survival, and then you can see if like you know the tracks, or like actually these branches broke only 2 days ago, and the thing that you thought was mud, and you put it in your mouth, it's not mud. Charisma, the last one. Let's see. Okay, deception. So you can lie to NPCs, and then the DM will ask you to roll, and then you can see how well you lied to them. And the character, the NPC, can roll an insight check to see if you're telling the truth. So anything can go either way. Intimidation. So this is like you're a barbarian and you're a hitty guy, and like you go up to this character and you're like, move. Then you can roll an intimidation to see if this character moves out of your chair in the tavern. One of my homebrew rules that I really like is that if you roll, you can, instead of rolling charisma, then you can roll strength. So that is like a display, like you crack the chair next to them, like over your knee, and then that could initiate a roll for intimidation, which I like a lot, because one of my characters that might be a big strong character, when I was first making them, I was like, I don't want them to be charismatic, but I want them to be good at intimidation. So as I was rebalancing my character sheets, and I was like, now I will use that. So that's very good. Deception, intimidation, charisma. So performance as a bard. Then you like play music, and like there's actual mechanics for playing music and like inspiring people of how well you played music. But how do you know how well you did music? With a performance check. And then persuasion, you can convince someone like, come on, which if you roll sway in another game called Blades in the Dark, so watch When Can We Play, which is another Twitch and YouTube, and then a whole series of D&Medias, where I play a character who very much in the same vein as persuasion. There's a role called sway, and so that is Thingama's sway ability. Sway, persuasion, stealth. Okay, there we go. So these are the big six: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. These are the skills associated with them. Then at the top, just to break all of it down for you, inspiration. That is either it can work in two ways. One, it's a game mechanic where the DM really loves your roleplay, or like really appreciates this thing you did, or something that was inspired. So the DM can gift you an inspiration point, which when you spend it, then you can have advantage on something later on, which I'll talk about advantage and disadvantage in a sec. Also, let me put that down to remember. Then proficiency bonus. That means that you are inherently, no matter what race or class you choose, and with all secret surprise math, races have different like pluses and minuses to all these numbers, and then classes have different pluses and minuses to all these numbers. So proficiency, no matter what you do, no matter what combination you come up with, you will be good at something. So you will have proficiency in something, and you get to choose with classes and backgrounds and stuff. So, proficiency bonus, you will get a +2 when you first start out. Excuse me as I adjust my sleeves. So you will definitely get pluses and stuff. And then saving throws are a bit of confusion for even my players right now, because they're pretty much the same numbers as just the straight up scores, but you are proficient in like 2 saving throws, and then you will get your proficiency bonus added to one of these numbers. So when they look and like, oh, well, I have a +5, and I'm like, I know you don't have a +5, then they're looking at saving throws instead of proficiency ability scores. So these are ability scores, these are saving throws, and these are skills. So for the saving throws, you use one of the 6, but then it ties game mechanics wise to like strength saving throw. That's if you are, it's very much the Captain America Civil War, where he grabs onto like the top of the building, and then he grabs onto the helicopter, and then he does this bit, shows off his muscles. But that is a strength saving throw when someone tells you to roll for that. That is ow, that actually really hurt. That is a strength saving throw. Dexterity saving throw. That's if you're at the top of that building and then someone pushes you, like, oh, then you do a dexterity saving throw to see like if you land back on your feet or if you tumble off. Constitution saving throw. You ate a bad tomato, so let's see how well you hold up. If like you get poisoned or drop down health or something. Intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, like those are more spells that are thrown at you. And there's a lot of spells. There's 300 pages in that player's handbook, and let's see what page spells are at. 207. So there's 100 pages of spells, pretty much, in the player's handbook. So there's a lot of spells, but attack spells against you might need you to throw an intelligence saving throw, wisdom saving throw, or charisma saving throw. So, dem's all dem. Passive wisdom, perception. That is, if you were walking down a street and then just innately, this is more DM, like the DM should know this and ask you. But if you're walking down the street, if you have, let's say, a 15, and I'll talk about numbers in a second, but if you have a 15 passive perception, then if something happens like in a dark alley that only rolled a 14, then you can see it. Like, hey, like it's a free roll pretty much. But if they did something and it was a 16, then you don't see it, and then you can keep walking. Other proficiencies in languages. With every race, there's pretty much a language associated with it. So you can talk in Dwarvish, which is Scottish. Or like Infernal and Abyssal. Abyssal. Abysmal. Or like Sylvan. Or like there's a whole bunch of different languages that you could talk. So then, before I get more into the next 2/3, with these, you get your ability scores in a couple different ways. So either you can roll some dice, or there's like, you have these 6 numbers, then put them in whatever order you want. Or like there's points where you have like a bank of points, and so you can spend them however to get the numbers that you want. And then when you have these numbers, then they're associated with another number, and then you add them to these. So when a DM asks you to roll something for D&D, then for the most part, for any of these skills and just a whole bunch of other stuff, then you will roll one of the 7 dice, which is called a D20, because it has 20 sides of the dice. Let me actually show you. So, these are the dice that come in any good D&D like starter kit or something. These are called polyhedral dice because that means they have many faces. I think. I don't know if that's what that means. But these are the dice you are going to get and use when you do the things. And they have different names. So this little pyramid is a D4 because it has 4 sides. A D6, which is just a normal ass die. A D8. The D10, D10 and D100. A D100 is just a D10 with extra zeros added to it. A D12, which is this dodecahedron, and then it's like a tetrahedroclonic microscopic mineral animal, the 20-sided dice. So this is the one you'll be using for like 90% of all of D&D, the 20-sided dice. These are a little confusing for people. So that's a D10 and that's a D100. There's a thing called percentage dice where you roll both of them together, and then you will pretty much marry the 2 numbers. So if you get a 70 and then a 3, then you got a 73. But most of these other dice are just for damage. So when you do an attack, then you roll a specific damage according to your weapon or your spell, and then that is what comes out from that. Or according to your class, then you have different class. How do you like not seeing me talk at all? According to your class, then you will have a different die that's just associated with it that you can do for hit points and hit dice later, etc. But these are the main ones. This is the one you are going to use 90% of the time. These are all the dice I have here in Atlanta. These are not including my North Carolina dice, which is a whole bunch more. And then, as you can see, they're all very beautiful. These are click clack shiny math rocks. And when you play a lot of D&D, then you will want to buy a lot of dice. Because you need one for every character, like bespoke dice, and then there are some that are just like, oh, I don't have a red set. And then just some that are unique, like in the middle. So if you see the D100, the red one at the top, then you go down a little bit, and then there's a D6 that has a 2 and a heads on it. That is like it's like half of the faces are 2 and heads, and then the other one is 1 and tails. So it's pretty much like flipping a coin. And speaking of which, a D2 is a coin. So it's either one or the other. So that's the thing. That's dice. Oh no. So that's dice. So you will roll a D20 and then either add good numbers, or if you have a low ability score, you can subtract numbers. If you have a really low score, like say 6 and it's associated with a number, then like you can subtract 3 from your roll. And then that's, people are scared of low ability scores, but I say then that's excellent, because that's a lot more fun. It's a lot of role playing opportunities where you are just not good at something. So how do you explore not being good at something while also still like going towards the goal of monster slaying or whatever? Like that is really interesting for me, because just like in real life, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and it's just a fun layer to add to it. So, for example, like if you have a 6 and you're really bad at something, you could put it in a charisma score, and that'll be your lowest score, and like you are not personable. Just out and like you're just really awkward, or like, hi, I'm actually the king. And it's just a whole bunch of fun opportunities. Excuse me. I'm sure that's pleasant to listen to. So before we do the next 2/3, and it's a lot less like these are it's minuscule and like very detail oriented, but the next 2/3 are not as much. Let's go to questions. Let's see. 20 scariest. Okay. If it were okay, so 727. If it were real, which would be the scariest? Yeah, that was like the beholder question. 728. I should have asked you which you would want as a pet. We're talking about monsters and stuff. And speaking of monsters, so besides the player's handbook. Yeah, not cooperate. That's good. So besides the player's handbook, the 2 other most important D&D books are the Dungeon Master's Guide, which I should read a lot more of. But the Dungeon Master's Guide, I think I said page 16 in the announcement video. I am at 16. Well, hell, I thought I was at 14. This is my bookmark. So, that's me in a kiddie pool with a very tight safety vest on, eating a sundae. It's a fake sundae, by the way. Banana split sundae. With a spoonful of whipped cream. And me looking just... This is charisma. This is a natural 20 in charisma. Is what you see right here. So, Dungeon Master Guide. This one, as a player, you don't have to worry about. From it, I have actually reverse engineered a lot of the rules from playing so much and watching so many shows, and I'm like, I just absorb a lot and then I'm sure that in it's another 300 pages. Yep. That there are a lot of rules that I now know because of me playing so much. So that's my excuse. And then Monster Manual. So this is a big book of baddies. And everything I'm explaining to you right now is the 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons. So am I supposed to? Okay. The 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons. The 5th meaning there are 5 others before them. There was 1st edition, which was just like regular. It was the first D&D that they ever made. Gary Gygax and others. 2nd edition, 3rd edition, and then 3.5 is one. And then I just asked Twitter today about what the difference between Dungeons and Dragons and then another very popular tabletop role-playing game, TTRPG, is called Pathfinder. So Pathfinder was actually just like, it was people who loved 3.5e of Dungeons and Dragons, and then when 3.5e, this is what I heard from other people, so I don't know if it's right or not. But when 4th edition came out from D&D, then people were like, no, we actually like this one a lot. So then there was like a Splinter Cell, and then Pathfinder came about, and so they're doing their own thing like that. So that Pathfinder, and then 4th edition is very much it. From what I read, again, I haven't played any version except for 5e, which is what I know a lot about 5e. But 4th edition tried to be like a video game where you just hit, and there wasn't a lot of stuff. So with every edition out there, there were a lot of companion pieces and like books and like their own monster manuals. So I have like some 2e monster manuals, which are just fun to look back at, like the 80s art and what they want for their powers and stuff. But this is the monster manual. This is like the current list of baddies, and there's a beholder right there on the cover. So when I talk about monsters, then it's like archetypal stuff and like real classic D&D, like beholders and beholders, and dragons and trolls and giants and stuff. So what one do I want as a pet? I was gonna say a kenku, which is a small raven like almost like a toddler size being that they are cursed. They are racially cursed, where the only things they can speak are things they've already heard. So they pretty much are like they mimic back to you, whatever it is. But then I realized that like we have those, and those are called parrots. But I want them to like a little walkie-talkie following me around. But I guess that's an actual toddler. So, but for that, how about like a fairy dragon, which is just like a little dragon, or pseudo dragon? Those are cute, but also lizards and like iguanas. Dang it! I'll think of a good answer. Let's see. I don't know. See, when I do OBS, which is like the technical side of this, it says chat paused due to scroll. So I don't know if y'all can post in the chat. And then I scroll down and then it like resumes. I don't know. I'll figure it out one day. Let's see. As a pet, where'd Victor go? I'm right here. Let's see. Just me reading. I am going to... Okay, so 741. Would you let your players roll insight versus each other? Oh, that's a very good question. Wow, that's a great question. For D&Me, it's me playing against myself. Well, not against, but with myself. I'm sure that there will be times where one of them is blatantly lying to another one. But I also want to feel out those moments as they occur, because I don't want me to knowingly, like, as a character, like, I am lying to you right now. I don't want another character to just roll just because I know that is something to do. So really, if it's justified, then I totally will. That's a great question. 742. When can we play? Would you let them sleight of hand each other's stuff? I have already written that in possibilities, because one of them I said a little hint, because you'll find out in 2 days anyways. August 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. One is a very melee, a big boy, and then another one is maybe a sneaky boy. So, and all of my characters are male. I am male, and there's a whole, like, a morality question, whether I could play female characters or non-binary characters and do that authentically, which is, I guess, a philosophical question for all of D&D and role-playing. But I feel most comfortable with my 4 characters being good boys. And then I'll feel out more the community, the D&We, later, about if it's a good idea or if people want me to portray a female character or a non-binary character. But at the beginning, these 4 boys are going to be boys. So we'll talk about that later. Sneaky. Okay. 743. How do you feel about PvP, which is player versus player, person versus person? Like a one-on-one scenario. I think if it's justified in the story, like if one of them becomes really upset with another one, or like mind-controlled stuff, like I'm not great at combat, and I'll talk all about combat later here also. We did an hour of material so far. That's amazing. My announcement video is like 30 minutes. 36 minutes. I don't know. But we're at an hour. So I PvP combat. So I'm not great at combat. Combat, there's a lot of rules about combat in D&D. The campaign that I run, that I DM, is we are 11 episodes in, 11 sessions, but I give them episode titles and stuff. We have done actual combat twice, and we were almost going to do it a third time, but my players decided not to fight the Yetis. They could have taken them on, though. I mean, the Yetis to my players. But I'm not great at combat. It is not my favorite thing. I love the roleplay, and that's what I'm really excited about for this. But like me organically, my world building and my open world campaign doesn't focus a lot on combat. It's a lot more storytelling. It's a lot more acting, just talking with and discovering characters and stuff. But the campaign guides, which are the published adventures, they are very much, there's a lot more combat thrown in, sprinkled in, which is great because I would not have done it by myself organically. So it's fun to see it pop up in the books and me going, so that's exciting to explore more combat. So yes, combat. PvP, if it happens in the story, let them fight. Show us your favorite rock dice. 754. Let's see. Because they're all in here now. Let's see. I have some great ones. I like, so here's the one I was talking about earlier. The 1 tails and then 2 heads. So that's really cool. I like little individual cool dice like this. Up in the mountains of North Carolina, there's a game store. I don't remember what it's called. But they have their own dice where it's a D6, and then their like brand and logo is printed on it. And I was like, that's really cool. That's really clever. My friend Scott Cobbs makes dice, and he gave me he gave me a couple actually from this, but one is this beautiful yellow set that inside has little pieces of what's it called? Mylar. Like the balloons at the grocery store, like little pieces of it. So it's really, I can't show it to you worth beans because of the green screen filter, but inside is beautiful. Like it's super sparkly inside, and he made me a set of that. He printed me off a set of like red ones, but then also this one is another. It's a beautiful one. I can't do it justice, but it's see-through, but inside is like this incredibly fine like rainbow glitter dust, and like you hold it up into natural light and it looks different, and then hold it up to regular one, and like at a certain angle it just like an aurora borealis inside it. And I think he calls these lighthouse dice. And I'll do sponsorships and stuff, but you can find him on Facebook and I want to make sure that this is right before I spout out. Okay. So yes, he is on Facebook at Taloxin Dyson Games. So that's TALOXIN Dyson Games. Scott Cobbs. They're called Lighthouse Dice, and they are amazing. They're gorgeous, and like I helped him like sand some one time during 2020, and like he uses 5 different grits of sandpaper and like just 20 times one way, 20 times the other one on each face, and it's super like smooth and so Taloxin Dyson Games, TALOXIN Dyson Games. Tell him Victor sent you, and he'll go, cool. We'll figure out like discount codes and stuff. But so those are my favorite. Click clack dice, favorite rack dice. Okay. Excellent. Again, if you have more questions, put them in the chat or comments or Facebook or Instagram, or I'm actually not paying attention to them at all. So let's see. I'll answer more questions in another chunk. But back to the character sheet. Then we have this middle section. So armor class, that is like when you have armor, then that is like the outer shell that baddies have to hit before they like actually hit you and do damage. So like leather armor is like 13, so it can go up to like 20 because of DPD D20, but like it ranges from like 12 to 19 and 20. Like you can have heavy armor, and that gives you a lot of buffing, but it does not make you sneaky at all. So you actually have disadvantage on stealth rolls and stuff. So armor class, yeah, that's okay. And the thing about armor class, and it all comes together, I promise. So for combat, when you roll to hit something, then let's say that you rolled a 17. If their armor class is 17 or lower, then you do hit. So if you both roll 17, then the attacker wins to actually hit you. If their armor class is 18, then it does not hit. So if the attack is 17, then it does hit if your armor class is 17. Because that's the perfect amount of force that they need to break through the shell. Initiative is technically a dexterity check, which I just learned recently. But ooh, what was that? That was a secret because I clicked the wrong button. So initiative. When you do combat, then it's what order you go in during rounds and stuff. Speed is how quickly you can move in 6 seconds, because when you do combat, then it's all in 6-second rounds. So most of the time it's 30 feet per 6 seconds. But if you're a wee smaller little gnome, then that's 25 feet. And some other like little differences, like monks can haul ass and they can go like 45 feet and stuff. Current hit points. Hit point maximum, you determine that with your level and your constitution and stuff. Current hit points, that's what you at right now. Temporary hit points, sometimes you get a boost in some stuff. So there you go. Hit dice. This happens, it's only applicable in some cases, but say you're a level 3 and you are associated with a class that has a D6, which is a normal ass die, D6 as your hit die. So at level 3, you have 3 D6. And it's written out like 1D4, 2D6, 3D8, and stuff. Like, not necessarily the numbers in chronologically, but like, I need everyone to roll 1D20, and it's right there, like no spaces or anything. So hit dice, sometimes you can take a short rest, which is like you sit down and you take a 1 hour nap. So you can roll hit dice to recover hit points, and then you regain half of them after a long rest. So a short rest is 1 hour, and then a long rest is like 8 hours of like a full night's sleep. Then death saves. These are a bad one. So if you're fighting a Minotaur and then the Minotaur gets you down, takes away all your hit points, then are you dead? No, you are right now unconscious. So you are still alive. You're just like you have 0 hit points and you're knocked out. Then you go into death saves. So this is a little tricky for some things. Death saves, if you roll 3 successes, then you are alive. You are stable. You are not dying. You're just unconscious on the ground. If you roll 3 failures, your character dies. Like dead. And there are ways for like clerics to revive you and do magics and stuff, but boy howdy, it's a real character building moment to like die. And it's scary. And I don't like it at all. But for some narratives, it's amazing. But it's terrifying to roll 3 successes before you roll 3 failures. And the way you roll that is you roll a d20, and then if you get a 10 or above, then you have a success. So, just a dip. Attacks and spell casting. There we go. Name. So that is like sword. Like it's your weapon. And then attack bonus is, long story short, like you add your strength if it's melee, and then your proficiency if you're proficient in it. So if you have a +3 strength and a +2 proficiency, then you add it all together. And then 5. Like you hit your sword with 5 more chances at rolling the d20. And then damage type, like there's bludgeoning, so like hitting with a hammer, or slashing, which is cutting with a sword, or piercing, which is like piercing with an arrow and stuff. So you can keep your stuff here. And this is, again, page 1 of 3. But the other stuff is like abilities and factions and your spells. Like there's a whole list devoted to spells, which is clever. But this one's the one everyone's going to use. Equipment. There we go. Equipment. Here you have how much money you have. There's platinum, which is that's the biggest one. Platinum, and then gold, and then electrum, I think. Silver and copper. and it's pretty much a 10 for 1. It's very metric system, so Americans hate it. No, I'm kidding. 10 copper for 1 silver, 10 silver for 1 gold, 5 gold for an electrum. No? Is that right? I think so. I don't know. No one uses electrum. And then 10 gold for a platinum. So it's kind of like pesos, at least back in my day. And then equipment, backpack, bedroll, 5 candles. Like, this is all your stuff. And then when you play more and more, then you get cool stuff like immovable rod and bag of holding. Like, there's a lot of really cool items and stuff. But let's go to my left now. So these 4 boxes are pretty easy because these are your personality traits, your ideals, your bonds, your flaws. These are very much role play-y. If role playing's not your strong suit, it's mine because it's my career. Then there's a lot in the book, and these are suggestions. They're more like guidelines, where you have a personality trait, and like personality traits are like something that your personality is. Ideals is stuff you strive for. So like, I will always save someone in need. And then bonds is like what you are connected to. So either like, this weapon was handed to me by my father, or like, I will always do things for my thieves guild. Stuff like that. And then flaws are the fun bad stuff you get to play. Like, I will delay my group in order to loot a body. And stuff like that. Like, these are fun to play, of just like to sprinkle in like, oh, that is his flaw. And again, these are like guidelines. So these are more like, I'm going to play this and it'll be fun. But you don't have to have them, and you can make up your own. A lot of the fun, like, introductory pages for all of the books are like, this is what we've written, but you can do whatever you want, man. You could set it in your hometown, and then, oh, there are dragons in it now. Like, it's awesome because there's so many opportunities. Like, I'm making my own open world campaign, so I can put in whatever I want. But you can go to the pre-published stuff and like Forgotten Realms and like learn all of that lore and stuff. Speaking of that, George R.R. Martin, the author of Game of Thrones, which is high fantasy and has dragons and giants and stuff, he loves history so much that he wanted to write historical fiction, just like non-fiction historical fiction, like stuff that happened in the Civil War and stuff. But everyone knows what happens then, so that took a lot of the fun out of it for him. So he built a whole world so that he could write his own historical fiction in it and like do huge events of like, oh, and then the king died. So that's like how rich lore is. Like J.R.R. Tolkien. Is that right? Oh no. I like Harry Potter a lot. I know a lot more about Harry Potter than Lord of the Rings. I've watched Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit a bunch of times, but I don't know the names. Oh boy. Anyways, he made whole tomes of history, and Stephen Colbert can recite who begot who begot who begot who begets who begets who begets who begets. And it's amazing. I have zero patience and desire to know any of that. It's like when you're reading the Bible and then Seth begets and it's just that's a whole paragraph in the Bible. And Victor, it's not my bag. So I do not have proficiency in history. And then this last column is features and traits. So I make a lot of notes in it, but this is like every race and every class and every background has like special skills attached to them. So that's where you can put all of them. Like dark vision, you can see in dim light as if it was normal light within 60 feet. And then beyond that, like if it's total darkness, then you can kind of see sometimes. A lot of people have dark vision, and I don't really know around that. As a little sneak peek, 3 of my 4 characters have dark vision, but 1 doesn't. So that'll be fun. Excuse me. I bet that was a lot better than listening to me drink and then burp. No. Excuse me. So that's a player. That's a character sheet. 1 of 3. And again, the second one is spells. And then the third one is like alliances and factions and your backstory and stuff. So you don't have to worry about all of that. At least not for today. Not for this 2-hour stretch. But I said I'd talk about advantage later. Well, let's do alignment first. So alignment, boop, right there. There are 9 different alignments, and they are in a 3x3 square that you've probably seen a whole bunch. It's kind of Myers-Briggs, where it's good, neutral, and then evil. Self-explanatory. And then there's lawful, neutral, and then chaotic. So up in this corner is lawful good. So you are encouraged. If your character is lawful good, then like that is you following all the rules, and like you not jaywalking, and you being a very just by the rules type of person. Like paladins are real lawful good, where like they always do what society thinks is best. And then lawful neutral is like, hey, I cannot take sides. So it's very like just gray. Like purposefully like these are the rules, I have to stay unbiased. It's very Sweden, if that's what Sweden is, I don't know. Lawful evil is like, oh, I have to follow the rules of hell and the abyss and stuff, but like I'm following the rules. So as long as you stay within the letter of the rules in the 9 hells, then like if you step out of that, then I will get you. But and then neutral, neutral good. Neutral is just boing. It's just there's nothing. I don't really know how to play neutral, but neutral evil. But then chaotic, that's where a lot of the fun is. A lot of people play chaotic good because they can kind of do whatever they want, and it's still with it. And again, alignments are very much guidelines. Like, there's certain things, like if you're lawful good, then you can't just kill people just because. But chaotic good, like, you're kind of just doing your own thing, and as long as most of it skews good, then, hey, there you go. And then chaotic neutral is you really just go for it. You don't even have to go for the good stuff. You can just cause chaos. And then chaotic evil, that's the really bad stuff. Like if you have a chaotic evil villain, then boy howdy. So that's alignments. And actually that is a good time to I saw a question pop up. All right, let's see. 827. Would you be strict about alignments for paladin clerics? Like, take away a lawful good player's powers for doing something chaotic evil. That's interesting. I've never seen consequences for alignment stuff except for an episode of Critical Role where one of the characters was doing some chaotic neutral stuff, and then like Matthew Mercer, the DM for that, like bumped them down. Like, all right, so you're not good anymore. You are now neutral. And then that broke her, like the player. She's like, oh no, I didn't know that you can kind of float around a little bit. And like there are consequences. Those are the only consequence I've ever seen in like alignment stuff. But that is a very interesting, like taking away someone's powers for doing something real bad if you swear to be real good. Maybe because I'm a kind individual. I would probably warn, but that's a great consequence though, to take away like powers and stuff if you are super against the character that we've established. And there's a lot of trust and collaboration in normal D&D, but this is me, D&Me, so I don't know if I would screw myself in and stuff like that. It's very, I love this because there are forums and there's always chats about what certain rules mean, and like there's the rules by the letter of like this is the wording of it. But there's also interpretations of like, well, they doesn't say this, so it doesn't mean we cannot not do it. So I love all of that, and the fact that I get to explore all of it with you, my D&We audience. I'm very excited. So, I have so many ideas, and good stuff I want to play. But I will wait until Wednesday to start playing around at all. It's only 2 more days. And this is good practice for me talking for more than an hour and 30 minutes. So I need more water. I mean, water. Vodka. Boy, howdy. I do want to do D&Mead, like the drink, where I do... It might not be like the full-on canon campaign episodes, but like me getting sloppy, that might be real bad though, but it might be real fun. Of just like drunks and dragons and drunks, dungeons and drunks. I think that's another podcast also where they do drink to excess and then play, but I don't know. I'm still working that out. D&Mead. Just sidetrack, but this is all for me, so, and a little bit for y'all. But my grandmother has a record, and it's called like the Guggenheim. Oh, I actually think I have it on this computer. Has a record, and what it is it's a community band, and they like they're a regular community band, and they have songs that they have prepared, and they're a pretty good community band. But then every once in a while, then they get together, get absolutely sloshed, and then they recorded an album of them squeaking and squawking. Okay, here it is. It's called the Guggenheimer Sauerkraut Band. Guggenheimer Sauerkraut Band. It's 15 songs, 41 minutes. It's amazing. So they get drunk and then they start playing like, and like you can tell when they just get sloshed and like they forget. But then they're like, oh, I've practiced this like one section a whole bunch, so that like they like tighten up, and it's it's what a great concept. So GUCKENHEIMER space sour space kraut KRAUT space band. The Guggenheimer Sauerkraut Band. Let's see if I can play a couple too. This should just be my theme song. Bradley, don't worry about it anymore. Okay, enough of that. Oh, that's very good. So I might do that with D&D. I don't know how to do that though, but let's see. Any questions before I move on to other stuff? So, hashtag, is it Wednesday yet? Is it Thursday yet? At 8:30, what campaign are you doing first? I am doing a pre-published one. Will it be official published or homebrew? It will be official published because me running an open world campaign, like making another one in addition to the open world campaign that I'm already running for my friends, that's one too many open world campaigns in my head. Plus, I think it would be cheating a little bit more if I do have an open world campaign where like I can make up anything and everything, but me using an actual guide, like a published adventure, I think will have a lot more like structure. It'll be easier for me to like figure out the plot points, and like of course I'll add in a lot of amazing details and stuff, but it'll be easier for me to kind of have something on a track where I can just hop back into the trolley and then we could just chug along. I do have it. We will find out maybe at the end of the first episode. And if I play 2 hours and we haven't found out yet, like, we will find out soon. But I do have one. And speaking of that, this past week on Sunday, it was my 30th birthday, August 1st. And I made an Amazon wish list of D&D books that I would want just for this adventure, for my own diabolical purposes. And the D&We community came out in spades to help with that. I have a little fairy dragon that told me that a good number of those books have been bought and are sent. And I have a stack of Amazon boxes that I haven't opened yet, but I will make a D&Mextras unboxing video. But thank you so much. Sincerely, Victor is a very selfless person, so it's hard for me to ask for selfish things or asking anyone for any help whatsoever. So thank you so much for buying and sending me these books. I am blown away with your generosity. So thank you very much. I'm so excited for this. Okay, so thank you. 4 books. I'm going to minimize the chat here in a second. So now I'm going to talk about, let's see, I talked about a whole bunch of stuff. So combat and spells. I'll try and wrap this up in like 2 hours just to see if I can do it. Combat is based on rounds. So every round of combat takes 6 seconds. So if you slow down time, Matrix mode, and then play, there are really stark shadows, huh? I might need another light. Another light right there. Because this one's right here. So if you slow down time, then each round takes 6 seconds. So that is speed, like the 30 feet. That's why you roll initiative, so that you can see where in the round you go. And typically, like, if you roll a 20, then you will go before the person who rolled a 3. So they go first, and then after the last person goes, then the round restarts. So it's cyclical. It's pretty easy to keep track of. That is a bad sentence. That is untrue. It makes sense on paper, but then actually dealing with combat is arguably very difficult. It's very fun, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I skipped someone. I'm accident. No. Or like, oh, I forgot that spell effect was going on, because it's just a lot of things to juggle. And I've made myself a hell of a challenge. So that'll be fun. So combat. You rolled a 20, and then it is now your turn to fight against the Minotaur. So you have 3 things in a round of combat that you can do. One is an action. So it's pretty much, I take the hammer and then I hit him on the head. So you will roll to hit, and then if you successfully hit, then you do damage. If you roll lower than their armor class, you do not. So you did your attack, or you could do some other stuff, but like your main thing. And then you could have your movement. So you can move your full 30 feet at the beginning, at the end of your turn. You can do 1 foot and then do an action and then move the other 29 feet. Normally it's in intervals of 5. So you move 5 feet and then you do the thing and then you do the other 5 feet. So you can do your movement. And then also you have bonus actions and reactions. So bonus actions are like if you can do like a little extra thing. And then that is like for your races, classes, and bonuses, then they'll give you a little extra thing. So, for example, bards have a thing where they have bardic inspiration. So, as a bonus action, they can use bardic inspiration and then inspire someone. So, that actually leads me to point number 2 of inspiration, which I never got to. Inspiration, the point number 1 was that a DM can give you an inspiration to do advantage, which I'll talk about here in a second. Or then 2, for bardic inspiration and some other things, then you roll, and then a bard starts out just a normal ass die, a d6, and then you can roll that and then add that to your thing. To a skill or an ability check or something. So that's the other part of inspiration. So bonus action or then a reaction. Most of the time your reaction are going to be attacks of opportunity, where like if the Minotaur comes and hits you and then it's like and then tries to run away, as it runs away, as it moves out of your melee range, which is 5 feet, then you can do an attack against him. And I think most of the time it's melee. So if you have a weapon out, then you can try and whack them as they run away. So that's combat. Those are your 3 things, and then like there's a little bunch of exceptions, and then other stuff you could possibly do. For example, instead of attacking, you could use the dash action, which is just double your movement, so you can go 30 and then another 30 feet. Or hide. Rogues like to do hide, where they will hide. So that's combat, and then there's just a lot of rules connected to all of that, and it's fun and particular, and I'm not good at it, but it's something I want to work at in D&Me. And then spells. This is cool. There's 100 pages of spells, and then for every spellcasting class, then there are different things you can do with them. Like there are different lists of spells, like wizards can learn certain spells that druids can't, and vice versa, and everyone can like do spells if you do different like archetypes and like bardic colleges. There's just so much information that splinters out. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot to keep track of, and etc. But spells. So you have a spell, and then you have a lot of different components for a spell. So let's pick a spell at random. All right, let's see. Okay, so when can we play? Yeah, you. I'm going to answer your questions, and then you're going to do something for me. So, 838, coolest combat moment you've ever had. I have a character who, they were fighting against Mecha Orc, so pretty much like a robot Godzilla, kind of, Mecha Godzilla. And then my coolest moment was something that I can't tell you about yet, because we'll discover that in the character thing. But then my character ran up the Mecha Orc, like climbed up him, and then with an extraordinary strength roll, ripped his head off. And my DM was blown away. He was like, that's the coolest thing ever. So that was really cool. And then actually earlier in that episode or adventure, we were dropped off at like a beach, and then we were walking down, and then my character was wading in the shallows. Then we were getting attacked by axe beaks. Birds with like 4 wings. And then one of them attacked him in the shallows, and so he struggled, and then he actually drowned the axe beak in the water, and then wore his carcass around, like put him over like the wings over the thing, and just for a while. So that's excellent. And then your final question: why are you so unreasonably handsome? You are very sweet. Thank you very much. So when can we play? Are you in the chat right now? Do like a throw up a thingama emoji if you are in the chat right now. Because I have a thing. If anyone's in the chat right now. Oh, there we go. Boom. Okay. When can we play? Great. When can we play? Give me a spell. I know you know D&D. Give me a spell and then we'll dissect it. And hello, Neo's Revenge. Is that a waving? And it could be a wish spell. It could be invisibility. It could be Bigsby's hand. Good. Bigby's hand. Critical Role, for those of you who don't know, is a fabulous show that started off on Geek and Sundry, and it is a bunch of professional voice actors out in LA who all play D&D together, and it's fabulous. Episodes of Critical Role average about 4 hours long. And when you actually play D&D like in person, then like you just get wrapped up into it, and then you want to play for hours and hours and hours and hours. 4 hours is a lot, especially if it's 115 episodes for the first campaign and then 42 episodes for the second campaign, plus a whole bunch of one-shots, plus miniseries. So it has been an amazing journey that I have spent years on. I think I started in 2018, and I've just finished episode 88 of the second campaign last night. So it has a lot of great moments, a lot of memorable characters and stuff. So just so you know, Bigby's hand. All right, page 218 of the Player's Handbook. It is a 5th level of evocation. There are different spell levels. So a cantrip is something you could just do as many times as you want. You could do it 2,000 times a day. And it doesn't cost you anything. It's like, hey, there's now light. And it's some really simple stuff. So a 5th level, that's a meaty spell. Like 1st level, that's like real simple stuff like Mage Hand, where you can summon like a little hand that help you out with stuff. But 5th level evocation, there are different schools of magic. Evocation is like summoning like fire or like effects. Casting time is 1 action, so that's 6 seconds. So you take that whole action component of your turn to cast Bigby's hand. Range 120 feet. So some range is like you have to be touching the opponent or whatever. So like there are some detrimental spells where you have to be touching them, and then from that like black ichor comes out. Or for healing spells, you have to be touching the person who is passed out right now. Components. These are big. So V, S, and M. V is verbal. So you have to be able to say something in order to make Bigby's hand happen. Like we could go like Harry Potter Alohomora. That's the verbal component of it. S is Somatic. Oh, boy. Semantic? No, somatic, I want to say. We're all learning here, folks. We're all learning here. Components. Somatic. Somatic, yeah. That is like a gesture. So you have to be able to do something like that in order to cast this spell. So verbal, if you are not able to say anything, like if there's silence, then you cannot do the spell. Semantic, if your hands are tied behind your back and you can't actually, or if you're holding a sword in one hand and a shield in the other, then you have no hands free in order to do this gesture. M is material. So you need, in order to cast Bigby's hand, an eggshell. Why did I say that so weird? An eggshell and a snake skin glove. So either during your adventures, in order to get to a 5th level spellcasting anything, then you need to find an eggshell, and then you need to find a snakeskin glove. Yeah, I know, right? You need to find little tarts. You need to find a twig that has been struck by lightning, stuff like that. Some of those are easy enough, and they can be like under the umbrella of components. So you can have a component pouch, which takes care of all the little tiny baby things. But for some resurrection spells, and like some big, like if you die, then if a cleric has this, then they could spend it. Like some of those like need a diamond worth 300 gold. And then the spell consumes that component. So sometimes the material needs are pretty hefty. But then sometimes it's just an eggshell or a feather for Featherfall. Baby's hand duration. It's concentration up to 1 minute. So concentration means that you need to be focusing on it as you're casting it. So the second that you are no longer focusing on it, then the hand drops. And then most of the time that happens if like you're in the middle of battle and then you get hit. So with that, you need to roll a Constitution saving throw to see if you maintain your concentration on it. If you do, then yay, everything's Gucci. If you don't, then the spell drops, because after you get hit, then like you're disoriented a little bit, and so either like you, oh no, or like you like, okay, I'm still paying attention. Okay, and so up to 1 minute, every round of combat is 6 seconds, so that is 10 rounds that you can have Bigby's hand up. And then reading it, holy cow, there's a lot of them. You create a large hand of shimmering, translucent force in an unoccupied space that you can see within range. The hand lasts for the spell's duration, and it moves at your command, mimicking the movements of your own hand. So that's fun. Like, of course, there's the middle finger flicking off goodness and other stuff that could be inappropriate or fun. The hand is an object that has an AC 20, so it has a 20 armor class. So if something tries to hit it, it's going to be hard to impact. And hit points equal to your hit point maximum. So if you have 20 hit points, then Bigby's hand has 20 hit points. And every spell has a list of the casting time, range, components, duration, and then a paragraph or many paragraphs about what that spell is, what that spell do. If it drops to 0 hit points, the spell ends. It has a strength of 26 plus 8. So over here with my big 6, over here, then it has a 26, which is a plus 8, which is bonkers. Player characters can only have, with of course exceptions, values up to 20, and that is a plus 4 or 5, 6. I don't know. I haven't memorized those numbers yet, but plus 8 is far powerful, and has a dexterity of 10, which is a plus 0. So 10 is that's just baseline, like has no additions and no subtractions. The hand doesn't fill its space. What does that mean? The hand doesn't fill its space. So I'm guessing, like, since it'll take up, if you're playing like the tabletop version with little minis, like my little turtle druid, if you play minis, then these are like, everything is proportional. So if you have a map, then every inch by inch square, because there's a lot of squares on a D&D map, every inch by inch square represents 5 feet. So within this 5 feet by 5 feet that Bigby's hand would have, then maybe it doesn't occupy it, of like have a shadow or something. I don't know. That's up to DM interpretation. When you cast the spell, and as a bonus action on your subsequent turns, you can move the hand up to 60 feet and then cause one of the following effects with it. So, again, that's you cast it, and that's one action, casting time. But then for your bonus action for other stuff, instead of opportunity attacks, you can move the hand and then do the things with it. So I'm not going to read what clenched fist, forceful hand, grasping hand, and interposing hand are, but those are different things. Like one could be like a punchy, and then one could be like a lifty. Upsy from Taz, which is the Adventure Zone. Taz. But this one's important because it's an excellent segue. At the very end of the spell, it says, at higher levels, when you cast this spell using a spell slot of 6th level or higher, the damage from the clenched fist option increases by 2d8, and it's, again, 2d8, so it's 2 of these 8 guys. Dungeons and Daddies calls this pyramid ass to ass. That's how you remember that one. The fist option increases by 2d8, and the damage from the grasping hand increases by 2d6 for each slot level above 5th. What is a spell slot, Victor? I'll tell you, my adoring fans that are still with me. It's been 2 hours. It's been 2 hours, man. I did it. I wanted to reach 2 hours. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited because I was a little bit nervous about like me doing actual episodes and like me like not being able to talk. I just need water and like maybe a break. I'll figure out what breaks are in a second, but it might be my countdown. Do you like this also? I made this. I sped it up. And I wanted a 60-second thing. And then I thought, well, I could do like two D20s and have like a 60, like a 1 on 6 and 1 on the thing. But you check out here with the 21-1. So 21-1. Boom. When I did it, I edited it. He pocketed it. I edited it where I finished editing. Like I had the half a second of it staying there, and then I sped up the sometimes like 7 seconds trying to figure out what the next number is, and then I edited that out. The whole thing turned out to be 58 seconds, and I was like, what? Why am I losing 2 seconds? And then I realized that when I did the 20, then I immediately went into turning the 1 to a 2, and I was like, oh, nuts. So I actually had to go and then copy and paste the 21-1, and then I did like the flippy thing, so it was 21-1, and so that counted because like if I were to do it again, then I would do the 20 and then bring on another dice for the 1 bit, so it'll be 20 and then nothing and then 2, because it's 20, 40, 60. That's the thing. So that'll be the intro for Wednesday. And then the week after that, there might be more audio that I worked on also. So, what are spell slots, Victor? Spell slots, I like the spoon theory the best. So spoon theory is if you have some form of social anxiety, or you are introverted or something, or it's also connected with chronic illness. So if you have lupus, or if you are not able to do as much stuff as a normal person. I don't like that. Normal's wrong, but someone who isn't afflicted by chronic illness. Then the spoon theory is very good. What that is you have a certain number of spoons every day. And there are different levels of spoons. So let's say that you have 2 level 1 spoons and 2 level 2 spoons. So a level 1 spoon is like eating something. It's a smaller task of like just, okay, today I need to eat something, so I will spend a spoon to eat something. A level 2 spoon is like doing laundry, or something slightly bigger. And then you can have like level 1 spoon, level 2 spoon, level 3 spoon, level 4, however much you need for the imagery to work. So like a level 1 spoon is eating something, and then another level 1 spoon is like taking a shower, and then number 2 is doing laundry, and then renewing your car tags and stuff. So like it's increasing levels of like just the social energy that you need to spend, or the actual mental effort you need to spend into doing the thing. But if you have 2 level 1s and 2 level 2s, then if you spend both of your level 1 spoons, but you still need to shower at the end of the day, then you can use one of your 2 spoons to take that shower. And like it kind of goes up the chain that way. Because at the end of the day, like you only have enough mental and physical energy and social energy to do these 4 things for any day. So spell slots work very much that same way, where you can use, you have a number of spell slots, and it's cantrip you can do all the time, anytime. But level 1 slots, and then level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, up to level 9. And then you get those by leveling up and stuff. But so if you spend your level 1 spell slots, but you still have a level 1 spell that you want to cast, you can cast it at a higher level. So you can spend a level 2 spell slot for a level 1 spell, and the effect would be greater. So you can use that strategically also. Like you have a level 6 thing, but you want to do a lot more damage, but you want to use the spell of a level 2 spell, then you can cast it at a 6th level. So it goes up the chain. It cannot go down the chain. So you cannot spend a 2nd level spell slot on a 9th level spell. That just the 9th level spell does not fit into that small container that is a 2nd level spell slot. So that's spells. Spoon theory, alignment. Before I wrap up, are there any other questions? So I'm going to go back to chat real quick. Let's see. Leaving off at 8:45 with Big B's hand. 8:48. What is your favorite character you've seen in a podcast? That I've heard from a podcast. My favorite character. My favorite character in a podcast. That's a very good question. I think for Dungeons and Daddies, which are only like an hour-long episode each, which is great. And there's I don't know how many episodes there are. Let's find out. And 1, 2, 3. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so there are 63 episodes of Dungeons and Daddies. There are 69 episodes, of the first campaign for the Adventure Zone called Balance. And if you haven't heard it, one of the best pieces of art I've ever experienced, transcending the media of art. But medium, I don't know. Favorite character in a podcast, I would say that in Dungeons and Daddies, the DM, who is Anthony Birch, who's a genius, some of his NPCs are just delicious. Like Lark and Sparrow, Payton and Walter. Oh, so good. So I would say Anthony Birch, some of his NPCs. Hello, Brittany. 8:50. Just 14 minutes late on that. Let's see. 8:55. Brittany asked, "Clenched fist, you say?" Oh. It was actually a little serendipitous moment of me reading Clenched Fist right there, because in our game, in the game that I DM, which it would be easier to say in Maul's game, where you all, Brittany and Spencer, have a name for the group instead of me going the group that I DM, because in my notes, in my DM notes, which is over 70 pages long, the title of it is called Girls D&D, because when I first started, it was 4 girls and then Spencer. But that feels weird and sexist, so I can't call it Girls D&D. So y'all need to come up with a name, but no pressure. It's much more fun organically. So for Girls D&D, which I can't call it, so for the group that I DM, the Clenched Fist is what I named my Thieves Guild. Excuse me. Lord have mercy. I'm glad I'm not a car person. The Clenched Fist, they're doing a lot of Clenched Fist stuff, which is awesome. But that is my Thieves Guild, which I was like, oh, that's a very good name for Thieves Guild. All right, let's see. More dice content. I will eventually show you my North Carolina dice bags, but they're in North Carolina. So I will do more dice later. But again, look up Taloxin Dice and Games on Facebook, TALOXIN Dice and Games. 8:59. I have lycanthropy. I'm sorry about that. I hope it gets better. Do non-wizards use forks? That's very good. Yes, let's see. Is there a joke I can do? I can't think of one. So, if you have any other questions, this was a lot in the 2 hours and 7 minutes of D&Beginners, but D&D is a pretty big game. And this wasn't, a straightforward line of everything you need to know about D&D. It's like a lot of it just overlaps so much. And it's difficult to... sorry, hold on a second. It's difficult to talk about it linearly because everything kind of touches on everything else. But I have... not in this kind of scatter plot, shotgun, birdshot way, but I have taught a lot of new players to D&D how to play, and I've got some of them addicted. I've had excellent just one-shots where they're going to be like, they just play by themselves, like do one-shots, and then they have the great time that one time. So there's a bunch of different layers, and it's a bunch of fun. Is D&Me going to be a campaign? Yes. Again, I am using the published campaigns already provided by Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons official content, merchandise. But I do want like the thorough story. And then if this goes well, if I go through all the adventures, or if I find that adventures, like the published stuff, isn't really my journey, then I might make a new campaign in a whole new world and everything. So I don't know. And in that case, I might make campaign stuff and write notes and have them publish it, because this is going to be a great adventure. D&Me. Then other people can play stuff. When is the first episode? It's going to be August 4th, this Wednesday in 2 days at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, thank you all so much for being here. For this past week, thank you anyone who has sent me a book, who have shared any of my posts, who have commented, who answer my silly Twitter questions, because I just ask into the void, who like stuff on Facebook and Instagram, who have followed me on Twitch, and who contribute to the views on Twitch and on YouTube. I'm going to post this after this. I don't know if for tonight. I'm still working out like logistics, but people who watch these videos and are accompanying me on this journey. So thank you so much. We are like doing the baby steps to go up the Twitch ladder to become an affiliate and a partner and all that. But it starts here with us doing this. So thank you very much for watching this. Thank you for you. Please be nice to each other. I will read all the chat afterwards to get all the goodies and fun stuff that I'm a one-man show, which is the one-man show of me playing D&D by myself. But I don't have like a technical person to help me, so I'm figuring everything out. But thank you so much. You have a fantastic night, and I need an outro. I will work on that. By Wednesday, I will have a list of like 10 outros, and then I'll try them. But for now, don't get bitten by a manticore. That's pretty good.